I just watched on YouTube part of Lucille Ball's Kennedy Center honoree praises. One, Desi Arnaz was going to present, but he couldn't be there, so Robert Stack filled in for him. The introduction was done by Walter Matthau, and Valerie Harper, B. Arthur, and another woman of comedy TV of the 80s, paid tribute to her with a song. And ever since, I guess, 86 and even prior before that, fans have been praising Lucille Ball. Well, mine is going to be no different. Here's my little tribute to the Queen of Comedy. Lucille Ball beat sexism and racism simultaneously with fierce negotiation in the 1950s. In the 1940s, they allowed her husband at the time, Desi Arnaz, to be on the radio show My Favorite Husband. But when they wanted to transition that show from radio show form to TV show form, they said that Desi Arnaz was too ethnic to be taken seriously as Lucy's husband, despite the fact they were actually married. And so what Lucy did was, she, along with Desi, bought RKO Studios that recently closed down at that time, and they opened up Desilu, which for the longest time was the biggest producer of a lot of TV shows, even if they were distributed on other networks, but they were shot at Desilu, a lot of these shows. And she not only proved that, one, women can be just as funny as men, but two, that a Cuban could be taken seriously as a comedic talent and an actor on a TV show. She was always a breaker of barriers, especially if they were futuristic. In the 1960s, Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, went to lots of people. He went to CBS, he went to NBC, he went to ABC, he went to loads of people to get Star Trek on the air, with the idea of it getting people to talk about today's problems, but set 300 years later. Nobody wanted to do it, except Lucille Ball. Gene Roddenberry went to Lucy, and within the first 5 pages, as Gene Roddenberry recalled in the 80s when Next Generation aired, he recalled a specific moment within the first 5 pages of an original script of the first Star Trek series. Lucille Ball says, "I'll executive produce the show. It will be shot here and be distributed on CBS." And that's what happened. Star Trek, for the original run, was shot at Desilu, because Lucille Ball seen the importance of that show, while everybody else was brushing it off as if it didn't make any sense. She knew that they didn't want the show on the air because it would get people talking about racism, sexism, and stuff like that were affecting society at the time, in the 60s. And she knew how important those issues were to talk about. I don't think even she knew, or maybe she did, the impact that that show would have. But all thanks to her. A lot of the things that we admire of television today, in terms of comedy, in terms of what can and cannot be talked about on TV, that list is comparably short. Because Lucy broke the mold. Broke the mold. She broke the barrier. She was so bold that, like a boulder, she broke through walls. And one of them was, when she was pregnant in real life, they wrote that pregnancy on I Love Lucy. But they couldn't say pregnant because pregnant was somewhat of an offensive term. I don't see how. And Lucy didn't see why that was an offensive term either. So they had to change it to expecting. But because she used a term that is practically a synonym of pregnant, from that day on, women could say pregnant on television without being told it was a nay-nay. It was a big no word to say. She was the first censorship smasher ever on television. I know we give a lot of credit to Lenny Bruce for breaking the censorship barrier, but she really broke that censorship barrier. And when the 1970s came along, Lucy was still doing shows. She was still doing comedy, showing that doesn't matter how old you are, you could still be funny. And that lesson was important for men and women who were looking to get into comedy, were waiting to get a head start on it. So to Lucille Ball, the world, and myself are eternally grateful for what you did, for what you have done, for the entertainment business, for society as a whole. You were a major stepping stone forward. And I don't think it's an over-exaggeration when Desi said in his short introductory for Lucille Ball that I Love Lucy wasn't just the show title. The world loves Lucy for a reason. And that reason is because she was a woman who, despite all the odds against her, beat them. And I wish she was around to see how much she's affected the world in a positive way. But I think she knew. I think she knew even after she was gone, the impact that she would leave. And to me, that's a symbol of a great entertainer.